on some hip hop shit.
Hey yo, what's the name of that show?
On some hip hop shit.
Where nerd culture collides with hip hop.
Tell them it one more time.
On
Some hip hop shit.
The strength of a Jedi's in the code that we live.
You ain't heard about us. We on some hip hop shit. Underground for when the not this thing.
You want some hip hop shit cause the music like hypnotic.
Get on some hip hop shit.
For the motherfuckers out there, some real hip hop shit. The fastest return of the Jedi. Stud-eyed under the mask. I feel good. Let the city of angels call me back.
A superhero in the flesh. Even at my birth.
Legend.
Meltdown Comics presents On Some Hip Hop Shit.
Welcome to On Some Hip Hop Shit from a nerd perspective.
Legend.
Presented by Meltdown Comics and Collectibles.
On Some Hip Hop Shit is a weekly podcast where we delve into all kinds of stuff, but primarily the civilization of hip hop and comics culture.
Nerd culture.
Nerd culture, comic culture. What we mean by that is anything that has to do with animation, anime, nerdy pop culture,
Hip-hop.
cosplay, whatever. It's all fair game.
And usually it's on some hip hop shit.
Most def.
Yes, and we are broadcasting live from Meltdown Comics and Collectibles, Hollywood, California. I'm Adam S., a.k.a. Wednesday's Finest. I'm joined by...
This is B. Schultz, B. Schultz of Street Legends, Inc.
Brando Calrissian.
There you go. And who we got here, Brando?
We got our recurring ne'er-do-well, Self Uno,
What up, though?
a.k.a. Josh.
A.k.a... I don't even know.
I was like, you know some more
Yeah, I don't
AKAs?
know, man. I just love saying AKA, man. It's like
If
I
you're
got
gonna
a lot
bring
of
the AKAs, though, you have to come with it, dude.
Yeah.
You need to be like
you know,
AKA Mom Spaghetti,
Hey.
AKA.
I just gave myself an AKA, and this is the first time, so I did that.
You're the coach and horses lover.
Oh,
That's
who?
right. AKA Coaching Horses.
All right, wait, hold on. Let me put on some music here because we got a special guest here.
We got a very special guest.
Who is it, Brando?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us comics, pop culture, man of the world, international man of mystery.
Ooh, I don't even know who he is.
I like
He
this.
goes by the name of Food Winner,
Oh,
a.k.a. Jim,
Mahfood.
a.k.a. Food, a.k.a. JimMafood.com.
That's the most interesting
I like it.
last name, by the way. Mahfood?
Yeah, not our real last name, which might not be a huge shock to people, but
Damn.
it's Mahfouz, Mahfouz is the Lebanese spelling and pronunciation. And when my great-grandparents came over to Ellis Island, the white people there didn't know what they were saying, and so they were like, we're going to just put the English word food in your name. Like, we don't, Mahfouz, we don't know what that is, so it's Mahfood now. And since then, there's been generations of us in America with this really bizarre last name that people are like, what?
That is
What's
so
name?
typical Ellis Island, man. Like, those bastards. Come on.
But
son.
most people's names were changed. Most people,
No, it's true. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
Like,
I'd like to propose a toast
what up?
to Mr. Mahfouz.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
Cheers.
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 And Brando,
Yeah.
what are we doing here?
We sipping on.
What
We
you sipping on,
something.
cat?
Sipping on a little bit of Absolute.
So smooth.
Absolute straight.
Absolute straight.
In a plastic
It
cup.
burns.
It burns enough to give your
Your
chest hair as a perm.
This is sipping on. Sipping on.
What you sipping on?
I'd like to shout out Mason Booker, our engineer and producer here.
Big Mace in the place.
Nice.
So now that we got the name out of the way,
Yeah.
what's happening, Jim? How you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. This on some hip hop shit has been really fun. I've enjoyed it. It's really kind of getting a chance because to talk about hip hop and comics.
Yeah.
Because there's really a crossover.
It's an incredible crossover.
Yeah.
When did it first start crossing over for you?
I noticed, like, when I went to college at art school in Kansas City in the early 90s, I noticed that me and all my friends that were doing underground comics and self-publishing zines and stuff were all into underground hip-hop. And all the guys at the time that were DJing, throwing their own hip-hop parties, and writing graffiti were all looking at comics. So to me, it was always like an interconnected thing of DIY culture, almost like a punk rock thing, where especially like I said in the early 90s, pre-internet, everyone was just doing their own stuff because no one was hiring any of us to pay us or do anything. So the DJs were like, we'll just have our own parties and our own like art lofts. The graffiti writers were like, we'll have our own art shows and paint in the streets because fuck everybody. And the comic artists, like my friends and I, were like, well, Marvel and DC are not going to hire us even though we're sending them samples. So we're just going to self-publish our own stuff. And so the sensibility of all of it was the same sensibility, you know, whether it was the music or the actual physical books.
Yeah.
Or so to me, it was always like the aesthetic was always there.
Yeah. No, and you could see
Yeah.
it. You could see that definitely in your wild style, which is great because
You
now,
do have an original style.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I try to make it stand out as a brand, which is something that everybody says now. It's like, you got to have your own brand. But it was really growing up with comics and being a fan of anime and all this. And then, like I said, when I went to college and met real graffiti writers, I would go out with them at night. And I tried painting, but I was a toy. Like, I just couldn't do it. But I would go out and just watch them and their complete audacity of just like, don't sketch it, whatever, fuck it, just do it. Like, attack the wall, just do it quickly, under the cover of darkness. To me, I was like, that's incredible, and that takes huge balls, and I love the spontaneity and energy. What if I just took that aesthetic and put it into finished work that I was doing at home? And instead of looking over my shoulder for the cops, I'm still at home, but I'm bringing that spontaneity and energy.
Yeah.
And that's when people started seeing my stuff in the 90s and being like, oh, it has like this graffiti thing to it. And I was like, yeah, that was just kind of through osmosis. Like, that just happened. But to me, it's not really graffiti because those guys, that name is reserved for the dudes with balls that actually go out and break the law.
Right.
So I was just kind of trying to pick up on their aesthetic and sensibility.
Okay.
That's dope. And I thought about that. That's Self's background is graffiti writing from New York,
Right.
all the way to L.A.
Yeah.
And that's something I thought about whenever I saw your work was not just, you know, graffiti or whatever, but you just had a casual approach. Like,
Yeah.
it was that spontaneous, but at the same time definitive, you know, type of style. Like, it was almost like you were just inking.
Right,
know?
right,
You're just
right.
going straight to inks, skip
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
pencils,
Forget the pencils.
thicks and thins, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Your line quality. Did you go to art school? Did everyone tell you that was wrong?
Yeah, I went to Kansas City Art Institute. I just wanted to do comics, and when I got to school, the teachers were all like, forget about this comic stuff. You got to learn how to really draw and paint, which is true, but I wound up getting lucky and hooking up like freshman year with this dude who was a year older than me in school. His name's Mike Huddleston. He's illustrating The Strain right now for Dark Horse, the Guillermo del Toro TV show. He's illustrating that book. But him and I met like when I was a freshman. He was a sophomore, and just clicked and formed a studio and started doing our comics. But I learned more from him and the guys in my class that were doing graffiti comic stuff than I did the actual school.
Right.
So it was kind of funny because like by junior year, most of the teachers were kind of like, these guys are just gonna do their own thing. Like we'll you know, whatever. We're just they're self-publishing and this and that.
Yeah.
And then the crazy shit is by senior year, second semester before graduation, I got my first gig doing this book called Generation X Underground for Marvel. So like all the naysayers in the school and on campus that were like, comics aren't art, whatever. I was like, I'm already working.
Right.
Word.
I got a job
you're
from
getting
Marvel
paycheck.
Comics.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like
Right.
I got a job already from Marvel. Like, no disrespect, but I was just like, fuck everybody.
Yeah.
I'm out. Like, I don't want, not to be a dick, but I was like, this is what I came here for. And most of the other people at the school are just these elitist, like poser trust fund kids that are doing sculptures of things that I don't even know what it is.
Right.
I went through the illustration program, which was like, you're given a couple assignments a week and you're forced to make deadlines. And that is actual proper training for like being either an illustrator or comic artist, whatever. But I went through the one program that had a discipline in the school. The rest of it was just kind of like sculpture, fine art painting, and it was like just like kids hanging out bullshitting.
Right.
Which is cool too, but
And that's why right now is actually an exciting moment, because you come from this underground aesthetic, this self-publishing aesthetic, but you got books on the shelves like now with other publishers as well as doing your own thing. So one that I was able to cop, I went to try to get Tank Girl.
Yeah.
Which is who's that published by?
It's Titan Books out of the UK.
They were like, "Oh no, that's been gone." I'm like, "They're on a Thursday." They're like, "No, that's no."
Those go fast,
Yeah.
I guess.
So that one can't stay on the shelves. This is one that you're drawing.
Yeah.
And Howard the Human.
Yeah.
Which is back full circle to Marvel.
Right.
Talk to us about how that came about.
That I've known Scotty Young for a long time, and that's another cat that's like huge hip hop fan. That him and I connected in the late '90s at conventions, and we were like, oh, we're both doing the same thing and like the same stuff: comics, underground rap music, and we were always looking for something to do together. And he has enough clout at Marvel now that he can just sort of pitch whatever, and they'll say yeah. So. I was originally supposed to do a fill-in issue of Rocket Raccoon that he's writing, but instead he was kind of like, I have this crazier idea of like, what if we did Howard the Duck stuck in a human's body in an all-animal universe? Ooh. And I was like, I don't know how high you are and you came up with this, but that sounds great to me. So he got it cleared at Marvel. It was all him, and then they approved of me drawing it.
It's amazing what Secret Wars did,
And
right?
yeah,
it just opened the door.
Right. And I actually don't know how our book ties in to Secret Wars. People have asked me. I don't
Because
think
like
it
a
does.
battle world, maybe. Who knows? It's just a different reality.
Okay. So then it does tie in.
Yeah, man. I mean,
Okay.
anything ties in right now. I mean, they're doing the E for Extinction, the old... when Grant Morrison took over the X-Men. So they got a thing. They got the X-Men 92.
Right.
It's whoever, just get a chance to go at it.
Yeah.
And for you guys to get to do that.
It was fun as hell. And Scotty wrote to my drawing strengths. And it was cool, too, because Marvel let me bring my colorist, my boy Justin Stewart, who colors most of my stuff.
Cool.
They let me bring him along, and we just kind of made it our thing. And it did well. And like I was surprised because like all the online reviews and blogs, like super nerdy comic things, all seem to dig it.
That's cool.
So sometimes, if you're on Twitter and stuff, I saw Twitter people on Scotty's feed saying like, this art, I don't like it. It's weird. What is this? What are you doing, Scotty? And he was just like, oh, we're just having fun. Like, don't even worry.
Yeah.
Like, relax.
Yo, that was a pick of the week at Meltdown here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Meltdown.
Yeah, no, it was... I read that. I loved it.
I recommend it. I recommend it for sure. Because, just like you said, this is the possibilities of where it could go. You're a publisher like Marvel... If you're not taking some swings for the fences, on fringe, characters, what will be considered fringe characters, like, Howard the Duck, you're not gonna do Howard the Duck again,
right?
So that's a genius idea. Breathe some life into it from a completely 180 degree.
Yeah, it's weird too, because for me, I've done a lot more work for Marvel than I have DC, and it seems like Marvel, for some reason, has a bit more of a experimental, weird aesthetic where they sometimes allow these kind of projects to happen. Where my very first gig, man, like I said, in college was doing this very weird, subversive, black and white comic book called Generation X Underground based on the Teenage X-Men team. And they let me write it, draw it, letter it. It was very, very
I think
bizarre.
I remember that. And I didn't even know you then, but I think I remember that.
It was very bizarre that it happened. And that's the book I took. I was like working on that book, and I took it to San Diego Comic-Con in '97, and I showed Kevin Smith and those guys that book, and that's the book that got me the Clerks gig.
That was my first Mahfood exposure.
Yeah, the Clerk stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it all happened like kind of at the same time. It was
That's
cool.
dope.
It's awesome that Marvel was the entry point. I mean,
I
it's
know,
very
right?
weird.
Like, who does that?
It's weird.
I mean,
It is very weird.
That's reverse engineering,
Right,
because
right.
that does not happen.
Yeah.
I'll drink to that.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
cheers,
Yeah,
man.
l'chaim, yeah.
Thanks, guys. Oh yeah. Excelsior.
Yes.
Excelsior.
True believers.
No, that's super dope.
Did you get a one-on-one with Stan?
No, I've never met him.
Oh, okay.
I've been in like the same room as him. I've seen him, but it's a trip that he. I mean, he's still alive.
He's out there, B.
Right,
Yeah,
it's
no
incredible.
doubt.
Yeah.
Nah, he's still cameoing in every film.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
No, he was actually just here at Meltdown too.
Really?
Not too long ago, they did a filming where some movie happened. The scene was supposed to be in France, I think, or England, and there's a guy walking down the street. He goes into the local comic book store, and Stan Lee's doing a signing, and they filmed that here.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Pretending, but we got pictures of Stan Lee at
Yeah.
Meltdown next
Yeah.
to Mel the Alien.
Right.
So,
There it is.
I mean, when that guy's in the room, I don't care who you are or what you think about anything.
Yeah.
You got to respect a man who
You're feeling
developed
that shit, no
that
doubt. Yeah.
man, that many characters. I mean,
Right.
he just came up with it all.
He supported it in full. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
no matter who was creating it, no matter who was coming up with it, he was the backbone, and he was the supporter and the trumpeter for all of it.
Yeah.
you
And
know?
we actually saw a film not too long ago,
Yeah.
documentary on the
Comics.
history of comics. It's
Yeah.
called Comics,
Right.
with an X.
Yeah.
Is that new?
It is.
Yeah, it's new. It premiered in Westwood, and it's our dude. I don't. I gotta look it up. But I know his name.
It's your
I know
dude,
his
though,
name.
you know what I'm
It's
saying?
Michael. It's
Sh-
Michael. I
shout-
just don't know.
Shout
his
out to
last name.
Absolute. Shout out to Absolute.
Yeah.
Holler.
That's the
Our
drinking
dude.
going on.
Yeah.
But his name is Michael. I just couldn't remember his last name.
Don't sweat it out.
It's all
It's
good.
all,
Shit,
I'm
it's all right,
so
man.
sorry.
We tell
Sorry,
Michael.
man.
Michael, he actually made this movie over the course of 8 or 10 years.
Oh wow, yeah.
He was at Comic-Con the years that, the early aughts,
Yeah.
and when we were all there and just getting random interviews. And the whole thing got brought together with some really cool motion graphics, amazing interviews.
Nice.
And it was the first thing that I seen that was just felt really even-handed. It didn't paint like one person as the villain,
Right.
against the publishing company being the villain. It was just all about like, okay, this is what happened.
This is how it happens. Word.
Yeah.
It's all in the flow of business in a lot of ways.
And by the
you
way,
know?
it's comics beyond the comic book pages.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
it's comicsthemovie.com.
Comics and movie, highly
Sorry,
recommended.
Michael.
Yeah.
Hey yo,
Run your last name,
That's okay.
which I don't even know.
it's all good, dude.
So anyway, Jim, you're doing Marvel. You get into the Clerks. I mean, what was that like? Because at that point, Kevin Smith is
That was
Huge.
just good timing, and they had just put out Chasing Amy, so Kevin was like riding a high again and was like on top of things, and he hooked up with this real famous editor named Bob Schreck. Bob edited all of Frank Miller's like Sin City stuff at Dark
Okay,
Horse.
okay.
So Bob left Dark Horse and formed this company called Oni Press with this cat named Joe Nosmak, and they're in San Diego in '97. Had no books out, but just had like a booth and a cover of the Clerks comic book drawn by Gilbert Hernandez, and a cover of Bad Boy, the Frank Miller Simon Bisley book.
Sick.
So I showed my work to Bob. Bob was like, oh. And then he showed it to Kevin. And then a couple weeks later, those guys called me and were like, can you like do some sketches and kind of audition for us? And then I got it. And that was really like the launching point. Because once that book came out, I was doing signings with Kevin. And it's like literally no one knew me, and then I'm sitting next to Kevin Smith at conventions with like a line down the convention center. You know what I mean?
You were feeling the reflected glow.
Right. So I got to ride his, the coattails into some fame, I guess, or
Into
whatever
the
you wanna call it.
into the biz, whatever.
But it was cool, man. And him and his whole crew, like they're all good dudes. And I wound up years later becoming pretty tight with his producer Scott Mosier, and Scott and I have had different projects around town that, like you said, like I could tell you stories about shit that we've had that didn't go through, but
Nice.
I want to know.
So it's just like that whole crew. They're good dudes.
Speaking of that era, so you had all this exposure, but it's not like you weren't like getting it in. Like you had you did a lot of work.
Yeah.
Early on in your career.
Yeah.
So what was your first, self-motivated, title after that, Clerks?
I originally self-published 2 like Girl Scout comic books of my weed dealing badass chicks.
Yeah.
Before that in '95, and then that got me the attention of the Marvel. The Marvel got me Clerks, and then after Clerks, I wound up staying at Oni Press and doing a creator-owned Girl Scout series in like 1998, 4-issue miniseries, and then I stayed at Oni for as long as Bob stayed and did creator-owned stuff, and then Bob took off and became the Batman editor at DC and moved to New York, took on Batman, and then I basically brought all my creator-owned stuff over to Image Comics, where it's been since.
Yeah.
And since that era, it's been like various comic book series, lots of freelance illustration stuff. I moved to LA in 2002 from Arizona. I was in Arizona for 6 years, where
What were you doing?
Staying cool.
Were you riding horses?
I met this girl. I met this girl.
It's always a girl, isn't it?
I was the chick I was dating in Kansas City. I graduated and I was looking for a way out of the Midwest, and she was moving to Arizona. I had never even been to Arizona.
Had she been to Arizona?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, Arizona's close to the West Coast. I'm just gonna move and get the fuck out of
It's
the Midwest.
real close, depending. I mean, were you in Phoenix? Or
We were in Tempe, right by the college. Right by
all right,
ASU.
all right, ASU.
But the crazy thing, it all happens for a reason, the cliche, but
that's what they say.
I got to AZ, and her and I didn't work out at all. But then in like the first month of living there, I was at a coffee shop, met this graffiti writer dude who saw me drawing in my sketchbook, invited me to this thing called Mission Control every Thursday night at Nita's Hideaway, and it was DJ Z-Trip.
Oh, sick. Hell yeah.
DJ Radar and DJ Emil, the Bomb Shelter DJs.
There it
illest
Yo,
DJ crew I've ever
hell
seen.
Yeah.
That was their weekly, and it was the #1 weekly in Arizona. So I go down there.
Oh my god.
Z-Trip kills.
I see these guys. My mind is just like completely blown.
Yeah, one of my like most favorite live shows I ever seen was Z-Trip at the what was it on Wilshire, the El Rey.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It was like 2001 or something like that.
2002. I was painting
2002?
live at that
Was it?
show. Yeah.
My man, he was so sick,
fucking
dude. He was
great.
mixing the Van Halen
Yeah.
with the this and the Black Sabbath and
Yes.
the end of that, and it was so ill.
That was
You
his
painting
thing.
there?
Yeah. That was when that was literally like the first week or two I'd been in LA.
So sick, dude.
So he invited me to eventually start doing live art every week at Nita's Hideaway, and that's where I
Gangster.
got like my live art chops. And then he wound up moving to LA, and he was one of the reasons. Like I kind of followed him a couple years after, and then he's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing. But we've been good friends.
That's
but yeah,
what's up.
he.
That's cool.
I mean, seeing all that stuff in the late '90s happen, it was like I kind of saw him like invent the whole mashup culture.
Oh,
like,
He destroyed that shit. Yeah,
he
he really did,
basically
dude.
created it.
No, the live mashup too,
Yeah.
like where he was. I mean, I really can't even put into words like the effect that he had on a room full of
Everybody's.
6,000 people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And
Like
it didn't matter because it could be all
Yeah.
cultures too.
And it was that's the whole point. It's like he was mixing the rock with the rap, with the jazz, with the everything, and the turntablism,
And man, it
and
was
the
all-
showmanship, and it was seamless.
And it was all records.
Yeah,
It was
no
before
doubt.
Serato.
Yeah, no, it was.
So
and
when we
that's-
were
it
doing
was
the
mad
weekly,
official.
at Nita's Hideaway, it was me on this stage with these 3 DJs, just turntables, mixers, and maybe a sampler. But mad crates of records all over the stage, and everyone's drinking, getting faded, smoking weed. I'm like tripping over crates of records trying to paint, but it was all vinyl,
It was
dude.
spontaneous.
And then at the end of the night, we'd all be drunk, and we would all be like loading crates of records into the backs of their trucks. It's just like
It's that ink stains thing that you was doing.
right.
Yeah.
It's just like a thing that doesn't happen anymore. That maybe it'll come
Maybe
back,
it does.
but,
I mean, it's not happening for us necessarily.
Right.
Like, but I mean, for some kids out there, they might be doing that now.
Yeah.
But like, but for sure, it's not happening in that way.
Right.
You know, like we were talking with James about
James
you know,
Rotano,
about
1985.
Root Down, you know, and those cats like DJ Dusk and,
Oh,
and
that was my
Egon
boy. Yeah.
and those cats, you know, DJ Dusk, rest in peace. But
Yeah.
like you know, that's what you're saying too. It's like that those events had the live painting. The Coffee was painting.
Yes,
you know,
Coffee's
like Mir
buddy of mine.
or like whoever, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, and then you're painting with Z Trip, and it's like the art is an essential part of that live experience of people coming together to hear all of that and then get a visual aspect
Right.
of it.
Did
too,
they
so.
approach you, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I met them and showed them my sketchbook, and then they just were sort of like, "Oh, you should be part of this." Like they just immediately embraced me, which I thought was kind of a cool and ballsy thing for them to do. But at the time, there was no one else in Tempe or no one else in Arizona really doing. Like I had just shown up and was like, "I'm new. I'm working for Marvel Comics," and people were like, "You're working for Marvel?
Right.
Who the fuck are you? Like, who are you?"
Yeah.
That's a
And
pass
so-
if I ever heard
Yeah.
of one.
And, yeah, and so and it helped that like Emil and Z Trip were old school like comic book heads, so they were just sort of like, "Oh, you're like part of our crew. Like, come,
You're down.
paint,
Right.
do this."
Yeah, and your style
So-
lends itself to that kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
spontaneous. It's bold. You're using brush strokes and like you're just getting down with that
Yeah.
shit. You know, using washes and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know? So and not for nothing, it does seem to me personally that your stuff is really influenced by music.
Oh, completely.
You know, it's not as if you're not like
Yeah,
totally vibing with music while you're creating, or
Right.
you're not influenced by certain things that you're, you know, expressing.
right.
And that's one of the things that I loved about Girl Scouts is like it was just very blatant about the influences that were running through your brain. Bad Brain CDs and
Yeah.
you know, Fishbone.
The
Hell
influences,
yeah, cat.
It was
the influences are literally written on like the wall, like
Yeah.
in the panels. There's like posters of the bands and
Right.
a soundtrack that I'm like, you should listen to this when you read it. And
Yes,
the characters are literally
yes,
talking
yes.
about.
No, that's what's up too, because
And you know, that was my way of almost like, I'm gonna brainwash readers into like what I think is the good.
Yeah,
shit.
because it was
You know,
not
it's-
subtle.
artists-
That's
no,
the
it wasn't subtle at all. It's like
artists have to do that though. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Like you want to give them the soundtrack to the visuals that you're creating. You know, you want to tell them, look, this is my influence, but don't, you know, I mean, it's not subtle, but you're still not beating them over the head with it.
Well,
You know, it's like you're putting it in the background and you're telling them, you know, put this on. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
And it's also the to me the foundation of hip hop, which is constantly paying respect.
yeah, yeah,
You know, I mean, for me, you listen to like KRS-One, we talk about him a lot.
Right.
But a lot of his live show is about paying respect to the people and knowing the culture.
Yeah.
That's what you were doing in your art,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of like I said. I mean, I thought, you know, if kids younger than me are looking at my stuff, I was doing that stuff when I was in my 20s. I'm like, oh, if a 16-year-old
Yeah.
is seeing this, he probably doesn't know who Boogie Down Productions is or Cool Keith or Bad Brain. So maybe my book will be the conduit to him going in this realm of having his mind blown by like, wait, Bad Brains,
Hip
Sex
them to that.
Pistols,
Hip
what-
them to that,
You know,
yeah.
and
you
it's-
were doing a public service.
No doubt.
No, that's how it came off. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, without enjoying it for sure, but being like, oh man, he's just dropping it all. Like, you're not gonna. Like, what's crazy to me about Girl Scouts, and we have Felipe Smith on the show.
Oh yeah, that's my boy.
With both of you guys' books, like I had kids, so I would read you guys books and then I would hide them. Like,
Right?
Yeah.
I would hide them so good.
My people chews are mad in the closet. They're like,
Well,
my
but
kids are not
Felipe-
getting near that
Dude,
shit.
Yeah,
my
especially.
there was one moment where I had my people chew. I was like, if my children ever find this, they will be ruined. And I gave them away.
That's funny.
So I'm looking
Awesome.
for people chew, getting ready to have the, sit down with Felipe.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
He's a madman.
I had it.
Yeah. No. Okay.
Super talented too.
Amazing.
Oh, hell yeah.
And you guys are cut from the same cloth in the fact that you just get it in with the amount of work that you produce on
Yeah.
a high level. So talk about drink and draw and just those days where we first met, because I was running around with Mark and Mike, the Mad Twins,
Yes.
doing early
Blockheads.
blockheads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man in
What
our
up,
booth.
Those guys
Blockheads,
are awesome.
cat?
Exactly.
That's my dudes.
Those guys are great.
We were making toys. We were figuring out how to make a comic book because we actually came from an animation background.
Yeah.
Didn't know anything about comics. But talk about those days, like preview night, Comic-Con, like 03.
Yeah,
you
man.
know, 04, like that era.
I mean, I started setting up at Comic-Con in '98, and I would usually set up with this really talented buddy of mine, Scott Morse, who's like huge animator now at Pixar, doing incredible stuff there. He'll be a director one day soon. But we would do the booth all 5 days, and then we kind of, there was a really good club in downtown San Diego called the Honey Beehive, and we knew DJs that lived in San Diego, and so every year we would do our Comic-Con live art party, and that party was one of the first times a big kind of international comics audience saw live art and the DJs and the art being mixed, and it was like, oh, some of my favorite comic book artists are here, and now they're painting these huge pieces, and everyone's getting drunk and dancing and having a great time. You could get away with a lot more then, because it was like the companies and the movie studios hadn't moved in yet to
Right.
rent out all the spaces.
Right.
So, we had a good run there of like doing these crazy parties and just having a
Those are the best parties.
getting loose with everybody, man.
Yes,
It's
yes.
hilarious.
Those are the best parties.
And it was also like one of the first times I saw comic geeks and people in cosplay all and hip hop and club people
Right.
just all getting together in a social situation, and there's no barriers. Everyone's just partying, having a good time together.
That's probably the inspiration for this podcast.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Those times, those moments, because it did feel like it was one thing.
Yeah.
There was no separation, and it was the best thing about
Yeah.
Comic-Con. Like preview night, Thursday night, Jim and Scott were doing live painting at a party, and someone was gonna be spinning.
and
Shout-
spilling.
Brandon would be spilling.
I would be spinning.
Spilling.
No,
Spilling, B.
yeah, I would be spinning.
Right. And spilling.
And spilling. And
Right.
spilling.
And
Drink all over the podcast table.
Shout out to Absolute.
Once again.
Yes.
It's funny though, dude, you say spilling, because I think a lot of the kids that showed up to these parties were sort of outcast people that went to Comic-Con, spent all their money to go to Comic-Con, kids from different cities, and some of these kids would go to the shows and just get buck wild because they're not used to partying, and no one in their town parties with them because they're like geek culture wasn't popular yet. So it was like they're like the one Doctor Who fanatic in their town, and then suddenly they're in San Diego, they're around like hot girls are at a club, they're getting faded. We saw many nerds just like take a dive, fall, and there was also a couple kids in the crews whose names I won't mention, who were
Don't blow 'em
underage
up.
at the time.
Don't blow 'em up.
And they would come in with us and help us bring our gear in before the club opened, and then they would hide in the bathroom until the night officially started, so that they could come out and not be carded and party and be like, "Hey, I'm 19 or I'm 20, but I'm not supposed to be here." But for me, it was like, don't tell them I got you in, and don't lose your shit, but you should be able to experience this party because this
Hell
is
yeah.
fun.
This is the
Hell
shit.
yeah. I
This
mean,
is gonna be
some
fun.
of my favorite memories were when I was not even in high school yet, and some teenagers were bringing me into a bar on St. Mark's Place, dude. Like, I mean, those are the times of your life right there,
Yeah.
you know? Especially if you're an outcast, especially if you're you know, like you're saying, the one Doctor Who fan in your town, and you're getting together with all these other cats.
It's a way to unite people, man. It was cool.
It really is, dude.
You know?
Speaking of times of your life, you know, I used to always get so pissed off because, you know, Comic-Con is the ultimate celebration of the artist. But when you're an artist and you're alternative, you find a reason to draw on naked women.
Right.
And I'm like, the artists get it all.
Right.
They get the naked women to draw on.
Yeah.
This is great. This is great.
That was just a fluke thing, which a female friend of mine came up with this, so I can't be the one to blame. Her name is Love. Love is Love.
We won't blame you, Ken.
Love Oblon is a brilliant photographer, but I was interviewed for BPM magazine. You remember that magazine?
Yeah.
And for my portrait, they were like, just have your friend shoot a portrait of you. And she was like, dude, you draw tons of hot women. What if you actually drew on a real hot woman? Like, what if you painted a girl with your signature, like, arrows and stars and stuff, and then she'll pose with you, and that'll be your artist photo. So we just did this on the fly, and then it turned into this thing. But, like, whenever women or people talk shit to me about that thing, we used to call it the pervert train. I was like, this was just a joke that I came up with Love.
Right.
And it's Love's fault. She's a woman. It's not even my thing. It's like, she's a bisexual, awesome, hilarious woman who has the exact same taste as me in music, women, partying. So I'm like, I'm just an innocent victim here. Like, this is her thing. Don't blame me.
No, you could tell. You didn't have to coerce them.
Right.
You didn't have to coerce them.
And they were some hot girls, too.
Well, you know, that's what's interesting, and I definitely wanted to ask you about it. I was telling Adam about this, and I was like, Jim has this thing of drawing women, and they're like, there's like a little bit of Daria in them, but they're still like really attractive, hot, shapely. You know what I mean? Where does that come from? I mean, how do you have these women protagonists in your books and do them so well? I mean,
I just think visually, women are just a lot more alluring and interesting to draw, and it's basically like, I view it as a real. Like a
Cosign.
I view it as a real simple thing. Like, men are all like straight lines when you draw them, and women. This goes back to the graffiti flowing, like, hip hop thing, whatever.
For visuals, go to jimmahfood.com.
Right.
That's MAHFOOD.
Like right now.
That's the real website.
Yeah.
And women are all like curvy, interesting, crazy lines. And I do lots of stuff with, like, their hair as design elements and
socks.
That energy, tube socks. And also, but just being a straight dude, being a dude. It was like, as a kid, being like a loser nerd kid in the Midwest who girls didn't talk to me and my friends really, it was like learning to draw women and drawing them well. That's almost like you're trying to unlock the secret a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, maybe this will help reveal some of the mystery. The answer is it doesn't, but it's still kind of a fascinating, interesting thing.
You still have a girl say, "Oh, is that me? Is that
right,
me?"
Right.
Did you watch Weird Science a lot?
No, but I could see how that would be an influence. Gary and what's his name?
Gary was just taking a shit.
Kelly LeBrock, man.
Oh,
she
man.
was
Come on, son.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Too hot.
Amazing.
Too damn hot.
So you draw women.
Well.
You draw women well. You write women well.
Thanks.
Dude, what was the Odyssey like with Girl Scouts? Obviously, I was like, he's calling this shit Girl Scouts. They're like they're selling chronic in the era that, you know, there are no dispensaries, you know.
Right.
And now there's Girl Scout cookies.
I know, it's ironic.
It's come full circle.
I know. Right. Yeah, you probably should get royalties off that.
Yeah, where's Mahfood's money?
Mahfood's royalties
Where's
from the dispensaries.
Check, my dude.
Why haven't the girls? Okay, so
Talk us through that.
So the Girl Scouts of America came after me when I put out the first two self-published books because I didn't have it spelled with the double R.
Oh.
And I was blatantly using the Girl Scout symbols on their outfits. And this was all in Kansas City, and the Girl Scouts corporate headquarters, I believe, was in Kansas City or somewhere.
Is it? Okay.
So they sent me an official legal, like, cease and desist letter. And so me and my roommates at the time were like, what's the solution to this problem? Oh, just spell the name different.
Go Riot Girl.
And
with
the
it.
Riot
Go
Girl movement was
Gorilla
happening
Girl, yeah.
at the time.
Mhm.
And then we thought that was like, and I got away with it because it still works.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But,
When you first got that letter, though.
oh, dude, I mean, I was a little nervous because I was so poor at the time. I was like,
Right.
are they going to try and sue me? Like, what are they going to take away from me? I don't have anything.
Yo, not for
I have
nothing.
my drawing table and like a crate of records, and that's all I own.
When
Like,
you're
what-
broke enough, man, you could go for it. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Like,
right.
it's when you have something to lose that it's really a factor. But,
Right.
I mean, damn, like, let them take your records and your drawing table.
There was nothing
Depends
to
on
lose.
how good those records were.
Yeah, well,
Hey.
that's a good point. That's a good point. A lot of original pressings in the
Yeah.
first pressing. But so I just changed the name, and I did the first series through Oni, like I said, and I did a series called Girl Scouts Work Sucks through Image in 2003.
Yeah.
They've always been part of my repertoire of my characters. And then the coolest thing, man, fast forward to this year. This year's the 20th anniversary of Girl Scouts from the very first book I put out.
Wow.
You're
And then-
old.
and-
I'm
yeah.
old.
And
Not at all.
I don't know if you guys got to see it, but we did a live action 15-minute Girl Scouts pilot.
Oh, I
for,
saw it.
Ron Howard's production company called New Form Digital.
I saw it.
that my homie Mike Diva directed and killed.
It was awesome.
And
And funny.
and I'm really, really happy with it, man. We worked our asses
When
off
did that
on
that
it.
come out recently?
That
Ju-
just it
July.
just dropped like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know. I missed it.
Yeah, check it out when you
I
can.
was doing
Tell me,
research
where
for
do I-
this
where do I
interview.
find that shit?
YouTube.
Go to YouTube to Mike Diva's page, or just go to YouTube and enter in
Girl
Girl
Scouts.
Scouts.
Okay.
GRRL
Yeah.
Scouts pilot. 15 minutes live action mixed with some of my drawings,
Yeah,
animated stuff.
mixed in.
I'm
Well,
about to do that shit.
We got the three perfect girls to play the Girl
Oh,
Scouts.
man.
Mike was the perfect director. I was really happy with it. And we have like a year-long shopping deal with New Form Digital for them to shop it for us and try to get us a series.
I thought it was.
Nice.
I mean,
Gangster.
if there could be a YouTube show that would be awesome, that would be it.
Yeah.
I really thought it fit the medium perfect, and I loved it.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it, and the girls were cute as hell.
The girls were so great,
Oh,
man.
my God.
It was crazy. That's the most surreal thing at like the 20th anniversary, but seeing real people dressed up as the girl and like being these characters and running around with swords, chopping people up. I was
Right.
like, this is fucking crazy. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
What you
Came
do?
to life.
What do you do for that? Did you? I mean, besides do the animation, were you a part of the actual production?
Yeah. So I met with Mike. We were hooked up together through William Morris agency, and we hit it off. And then I cast it with him. We wrote it together. I art directed it, and I even like designed the costumes with the costume designer.
Awesome.
And then we went into Mike's house in the valley and turned the living room of his house into the Girl Scouts living room. So I literally painted on his wall like a huge mural.
Yeah.
We hung up all my canvases. So the girls' living room you see in the pilot is the living room in Mike's house. So, we art directed the aesthetic of it all, and at the finale is them interacting and having this big fight, and there's a lot of animated and drawn backgrounds that
Yeah.
are my stuff. But
Cops getting their arms cut off.
yes,
All good.
robot cops. It was a blast, man. It's been a good year.
Yeah, I was impressed, man. I was really impressed with that.
It was fun.
I was
It was the
excited.
one time an agent like got something right. Like this agent from William Morris hit me up out of the blue, young kid from New York, and he was like, "I know the Girl Scouts comic. I love it. I have this thing with Ron Howard's production company. I have this director. Check out his reel and let me know what you think." And I had never heard of Mike Diva, but he's a pretty famous YouTube guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just like Anna Akana, who plays Gwen in the Girl Scouts. She's a YouTube personality.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that the Asian?
yeah. And she does a show here, like once a month.
Okay.
And
Meltdown.
she's in Ant-Man. She's at I haven't seen Ant-Man yet, but she's at the end of Ant-Man, the end of the movie.
I gotta check that.
Um,
I've seen Ant-Man. I didn't notice.
So this YouTube thing is a whole new universe for me, but these kids are all like stars in that community, and they make great stuff.
good shit.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So where can people check check for that. They just go to
Mike-
YouTube
Yeah.
and check out
Girl Scout.
Girl Scouts, or go to
GRRL.
YouTube / Mike Diva for Mike Diva's channel. It's on his channel as well.
Good. Watch it, share it.
Yeah.
Please share it. We just we just hit over 200,000 views, and we're trying to get more and more word of mouth. The crazy thing, man, is like getting people on YouTube to watch something longer than 3 minutes. I've discovered is a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's odd. People are like 15 minutes, man. I don't know. I don't know. Is there like a 4-minute version?
Right.
or-
Such bullshit,
It's
man.
free. I don't know. That's the,
I know. It's free. You could spend 15 minutes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
But we got to make it, and that was kind of a beautiful thing for the anniversary. And then I just recently, a couple weeks ago, put out a self-published Girl Scouts mini comic that's like 32 pages of new drawings and a new story with them in it. And I'm selling that on my website, jimmahfood.com, and at all the conventions I'm hitting this year.
Perfect.
And so it's cool to revisit the characters and have this thing that's been in my life for like 20 years still be relevant, and it's like I still have a connection to the characters in the universe, you know.
Yeah, no, and so that's one thing that, like you said, an agent got right.
Yeah, very rare.
But we sit here, off of Sunset Boulevard in the Meltdown, Meltcast podcast studios, and I mean, we're talking about comics, we're talking about hip hop, but we're in the heart of Hollywood,
right,
or West Hollywood, as it were.
Yeah.
A little left
considered-
Hollywood.
it's
Left
considered-
Hollywood.
It's considered both.
Both.
Depends on who you ask.
There you
Right.
go. And
By the way, do you remember when this place used to be just hookers?
that's where Adam.
Yes.
That's where Adam came from.
Yeah, no, man. When I
No,
first
the
moved
street-
out here, my mind was blown.
It was
like,
notorious.
I used to take people up here just to show them, because I was from Ohio, Cincinnati. Bring them out, show them. You guys ever seen this many hookers?
Oh wow.
I lived 2 blocks from here, and there was mad hookers on the street, and this is actually the same neighborhood where what's his name?
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant got
And
busted.
Eddie Murphy.
Oh, really?
And Eddie Murphy got busted with hookers. The
And-
same exact, like within 2 blocks of here.
And you know the Hughes brothers? The guys.
Yes. Yeah, John
they,
Hughes. Yeah.
They did American Pimp, which was
Uh-huh.
a documentary.
Yeah,
on
with
him.
Ice-T.
And the Rosebud. With,
On this
With
strip.
2 Ds, a double dose of this pimpin'.
Yes.
Used to check his bitches at All American Burger,
Yes,
which is now
All American
Chipotle.
Burger. Yes.
Come on.
I miss
My
All
man,
American.
this is the neighborhood. My
miss
man,
it.
I lived
I used
here
to go
for
there.
years.
A good place to go when you're hungover,
Right.
Because I moved into this neighborhood 11 years ago, and I'm still on Laurel. But you're right, man. Because like when I first moved in the neighborhood, there was still girls walking the street.
Yep.
Yes.
And that only lasted for a
Yes.
couple more years, and then it started to get really cleaned up. But I would go to Coach and Horses and Drink
That's
and
what's
stumble
up.
home, and I'd get close to my spot, and there would just be, girls walking around like, "Hey, honey, you need any
There
company
they were,
tonight?"
yeah.
I'd just be like, "I gotta go home. No, I'm good."
Can I
Yep.
paint on you?
Can
Right.
can I walk you home?
Right. Do you want to get into some weird art experiments?
Yeah.
You're like,
You're gonna pay me.
right.
But so we're in Hollywood. Aside from ladies of the night, there's an industry here, and it's and the film industry is where a lot of times stuff that you work for years can bear fruit
Right.
financially,
Or not.
or not. Or sidetrack you down an alley to where you're going in a direction that maybe you originally wouldn't have gone,
Right.
without that carrot at the end of the stick. So I mean, talk about some of your journeys in Hollywood, and how Hollywood has come to comics and tried to pick up pieces of what you do, and how that's gone.
Yeah,
or not.
I mean, one of the reasons I moved here is I got an optioning deal with Disney when I was still living in Arizona. I had a cartoon idea called Kid Aries, and it was about this kid who learns that he's the son of Ares, the Greek god of war, and Ares wants to retire, and he wants his kid to take over his legacy as overseeing war and destruction, and the kid's just a normal kid and doesn't want to do that, and Disney got me this, gave me this deal when I wound up moving to Burbank when I first got here. Paid my Valley dues. Nice. Worked on the show for a little while. It didn't go anywhere, but it was
it was your show?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And man, too, at that time in 2002, it was like optioning deals. Like they were still paying like a good chunk of money.
Right.
So they gave me the money and I moved out here, and that didn't work out. But it's very weird because I've had like 3 different optioning deals at Disney of all places.
Only Disney.
I've also had where else have I had stuff? I think that's sort of it basically. But
What's up with that?
I don't know. It's weird that like and then we did stuff for MTV relaunched Liquid Television a couple years.
Was it Disco Destroyer?
The Disco Destroyer thing.
Yeah.
Well, that was with Scott Mosier and Joe Casey.
Was dope, dude.
Thank you. And we got to work with Titmouse, which to me that was the best part of it.
Yeah.
Those guys are brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love those dudes.
Shout
So
out to
they
Shannon.
And Chris.
Crispy
Yeah,
and Ben Kalina.
Yep.
Those guys made my stuff look great.
They did. It was dope.
It was just
It was
weird.
very cool, man.
Thank
It was
you.
a comic book come to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just weird working with MTV and Viacom because they like relaunched the thing and then canceled it basically in the same week.
Right away. Yeah.
It was very, very strange.
I had a lot of friends who worked with MTV in New York in the 90s at the time.
Okay.
With the original Max and Liquid Television shit back then.
And
it was intense.
When Downtown was there.
Earlier for me personally, earlier than that.
Mm-hmm.
But Brandon knew Chris when they were doing Downtown and all that other shit.
Yeah.
But, like some of my dudes were working even earlier, like the Max and some other shit like.
Yeah, when it was still
Prior,
like they were doing some pretty raw stuff.
Yeah, like mid 90s. Yeah.
Liquid Television.
Yeah, very liquid television shit.
Yeah, I mean it's there's been these near misses. Scott Mosier and I had a show at Disney XD, the Boys Action Adventure block. That was this. We didn't have the working title was just like Samurai Skateboard Ninja something, but it was this crew of kids that it was like ninja skateboarder hip hop kids.
My son would love that.
So
That was really fun.
for anyone who doesn't know, for some reason, studios have decided that their animation should be segmented into boys action,
Right.
and like comedy of the absurd. Those never the two shall meet.
Right.
And then what do girls have? Girls have princess.
Yeah.
To quote KRS,
various princesses.
why is that?
Right.
Right.
So, you pretty much, for a sensibility like yours, what do you have? You have, XD.
Right.
And in that, they have to kind of, keep companion type programming. So what were they trying to program your show as the next?
It was definitely boys action adventure with comedy mixed in, but it was sort of like I don't even know what they were trying to go for with it, but it was at the time this guy named Mike Moon was at Disney XD.
Right, okay.
And he is just a great dude with really good taste, and he loves the art of me and my whole crew of guys. So he was always trying his hardest to bring in weird indie guys like me to do shows for them. Our show got up to the point where we were about to do the pilot, and then Disney bought Marvel, and they just completely axed all the stuff that was in development.
Oh, this is pretty recent.
Oh.
Yeah.
So instead of developing these new shows that had no
Track record
or following, they were like, well, we're just gonna make like a Spider-Man cartoon and Avengers.
Why not? Yeah.
Which I get it.
Yeah.
It's
No,
all money.
It's
all about
really
money.
done a good thing for them. Yeah.
But they did just axe a bunch of cool, weird stuff that was in development. And
why am I not surprised?
The other thing for me that sucked was I love working with Mosier, and he's a really good dude with good taste and business sensibility. And we had this guy named Ciro Neely involved as our showrunner, and he had storyboarded the pilot, and it was absolutely beautiful. We were all excited. Ciro is now the guy running the Ninja Turtle show at Nickelodeon, and it's a brilliant show.
Where Felipe is.
Where Felipe is.
Yeah.
And Ciro is ridiculously talented, and I knew he was talented, and I was like this close to working with the guy
on your show,
on my thing, and seeing him draw my characters in just the storyboards. Scott and I were like, "This is gonna be amazing," and then just boom, you know. But man, it happens.
It's
Like the shit happens.
It happens all the damn time, unfortunately.
It's the
Yeah.
game. It's the game.
Yeah, no,
So
it's all good.
the key is like, I've discovered the key is like, you always keep yourself busy,
Keep it
distracted
moving.
with real paying gigs, freelance, this, that, and the other. Have 10 irons in the fire at once, and one of those irons will maybe actually become a real thing.
Gotta keep it moving.
Well, I was
You
going
know.
to say, I mean, in looking and trying to, figure out everything that you do a lot. I mean, you keep it's animation, comic books, painting, live painting.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you do everything. Is that why you do everything?
Yeah. But I also am interested in all those things. Like I'm not the kind of dude who could just draw comics for like 5 years straight. Like I'll do like a year run on a book, and then I'll get the itch to be like, I want to paint stuff.
I need to see some
or-
human beings.
Yeah, I want to travel, or I want to do this, but I also like that my style can kind of fit into these other
Yeah,
molds.
man.
Whereas
No
the trappings of comics is certain guys, especially mainstream superhero artists, develop a style that only works in the superhero comics, formula. So when it's time to do something else or evolve or change, they can't because their fans are like, well, it doesn't look like the stuff that I love that you do.
Right.
So really, like Jim Lee always has to draw like Jim Lee, and no disrespect to Jim Lee,
Because
he's
it's awesome.
But for me, I've kind of given myself this, wiggle room where I'm like, I can kind of like do weird shit and morph it and be like, it fits on this product and it's this comic, it's this thing. So
You're not gonna get lost in the mix.
right.
You're gonna keep it moving on all terrain in
Yeah.
a lot of ways.
And I think that just makes the art that much more exciting.
It does. It has to stay dynamic because a lot of dudes who get caught in one thing, they wear it out in a lot of ways, and people, I mean, as consumers, they lose interest in it,
Right.
or they get used to that person's art and the way that they do that thing, and then they just kind of I don't know, they get bored,
Yeah.
or they know what to expect, and maybe they keep coming back to the well. But if you're not developing, and like you're saying, it's like you're not like switching it up to certain styles and keeping it fluid, there's nothing to come back to in
Right.
a lot of ways. It's like you want to see what the next, what the guy is going to do next in a lot of ways. It's
Exactly.
like you don't want to see the same old thing every episode.
Right.
Brando, you got a question because I got to ask about something.
Oh.
I've been dying to
Bring it
ask
on,
about.
my dude,
Okay,
my
hold on,
man.
hold on.
What's up, though?
I know Brando's got a plan though.
Brando's sitting over here like waiting for Adam to release the hounds, dude. Like that's what I'll.
Get
unleash.
off. Get
Can
off.
I get my
Get
question?
off.
Unleash the
Get
hounds.
off.
All right.
Break open the locks, my dude. Like,
all right.
let it loose.
I want to hear about your working with Ziggy Marley.
Oh, what?
I mean, Marijuana Man.
Yeah.
Oh
is
yes!
the shit.
Oh, yo, my man, you were bringing back mad memories for me, dude. Like
There's a
I
lot
have
of promo.
literally had mad short-term memory loss on Marijuana Man.
I wonder why.
But that, I mean,
Sing it.
I
Tell me.
saw an interview. You're right next to the dude.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I mean, I have met Rohan Marley.
Yeah.
And I had a one-on-one experience with that. And for me, one of the weirdest things was, I mean, at times you feel like you're right. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm or I'm just so excited, but I feel like I'm in the presence of almost Bob Marley.
Oh, for sure, man.
And so, but Ziggy Marley, I mean,
sure.
Rohan is not on stage doing
Right.
what Ziggy has done.
Ziggy
So-
was the first,
Yeah.
my dude. He
Yeah.
really was.
Ziggy is referenced in Bob Marley's
He
songs.
was number
Yeah.
one. Number
So-
one.
So what is? I mean, I don't even know where to start because there's so much I want to ask about that whole. But just tell me
Yeah.
something.
Lay it down, dude.
he Out of the blue, I got an email one day from this dude named Tom Martin, who is the neighbor of the Marley family up in the Hollywood Hills. And Tom has these insane stories because he used to be the art director at Hustler in the 70s and worked for Larry Flint.
Hello.
So this dude has insane stories, and he was working at the movie studio. I can't remember what studio it was, but he art directed the famous, the Army of Darkness movie poster?
Yeah.
With
Yes.
Ash and the girl at his, he coordinated that. He art directed that. So he was like, emailed me out of the blue, was like, I'm neighbors with the Marleys. Ziggy Marley has this comic book concept. We think your art style worked perfect for it. Can we have a meeting with you? I was like, yeah, of course.
Right.
So
I'll make time.
I
got a little time.
And I this is my apartment down the street here, but he's like, can Ziggy and I like come to your apartment? And I'm like, sure, you and Bob Marley's son.
Yeah.
Just give me a little time to tidy
can
up.
Come to my apartment. So they did. They showed up, and man, me being a huge music fanatic, and
Yeah.
I mean, I own all of Bob's records. I own some of Ziggy's stuff. Seeing him walk into my apartment, and then,
Oh my God.
I brought him in my studio, and he was asking questions, and I was showing him around, and he was picking up things and really interested in stuff. And I have like a old school CD rack on one of the walls of my studio, and it's like all of his dad's CDs are in the rack, and he's like, oh cool, yeah, Bob. I'm like, yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah,
like
how could you not?
what
you know?
human being that has good taste isn't
Right.
a fan?
What are you, a fucking alien or something? You know?
So he basically pitched me the concept. He had it all worked out, and then he was just looking for a way to bring it to life. And this was such a weird and interesting opportunity. I immediately thought of my friend Joe Casey, who's a writer, comic book writer.
Who you've collaborated on Miami Vice Remix with.
Yes, and the Disco Destroyer.
And he's done tons of great shit.
And he's awesome, and he loves weird shit like me. So I called him out of the blue and like, I just had a meeting with Ziggy Marley, and he has this concept for this marijuana superhero. And Joe's like, I'm on board.
Whatever.
Like, he's like, say no more. Sure. And so we pitched it to Image, and Image said they would publish it. And then basically Ziggy kind of acted like the producer, and then let Joe and I roll with it. And Joe wrote it, and I drew it. But it was awesome, man, because like I got to go eventually up to the Marley compound in the Hollywood Hills, where it's like one of those celebrity streets where you have to check in at the gate.
Yes.
And then you drive in. I parked in front of their house, and Ziggy's in the front yard playing soccer with his kids, like smoking a huge joint.
So sick, dude.
And I was just standing there talking to him. He didn't offer me any, which I thought was awesome and hilarious. Like he was just
Right.
Like,
he
that's
smoked
his.
it. Yeah.
It's like a cigarette.
That wasn't for
Yeah.
you.
That's not something we share. That's my
So-
cigarette. Let me roll.
That's his, mate.
Right.
Yeah, and I didn't dare ask him for any, but I was just like, this is just like his shit. And then he brought me in the studio, and it's like some of Bob's guitars are in there, and
So
It's-
sick, dude. Yeah.
so I'm kind of geeking out and trying to concentrate and work on this project with him, but I'm also just like, this is a sacred environment going on here, and there's
hollow grounds.
Bob's guitars are right here,
Wow.
and but their whole family and the Tough Gong label and all those people are all beautiful, fantastic people.
Yeah.
And they're all, I mean, you met
Ron.
you met Ryan,
Yeah.
and dude, there's an energy. I mean, it sounds so weird, but there's an energy to all of them, and they're all smiling, and I mean, they're probably all high, but it goes beyond
Yeah.
that. It's like
It's authentic.
they're just magnetic, energized, beautiful people.
Right.
And Ziggy's wife handles all of his business affairs, and she was really cool and professional. And I mean, it even got to the point where like every time he did a show in LA, they got me and my friends in and backstage passes, and it was like
Right. It's
they just went
your
above
crew
and
now.
beyond.
That's
And
what's
then
up.
I don't know if you guys knew this, but the book came out. We did the release party, and the book came out on 4/20, on April 20th.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things I do remember
And
about.
we did a signing at the other comic shop.
Right.
No, whatever that one was.
I know it's not
Yeah,
Because
it's
I don't
alright.
remember.
and
all
not cool to
good.
say their name.
It's all right.
If you
No,
buy,
no,
if you
we-
buy, if you
you know
buy
what?
physical comics,
Yeah, honestly, if you
Buy
go
physical
into a
comics.
store in
Yeah.
Los Angeles
Yeah.
and you support comic books,
You could go
it's
to.
all love.
You could go to
the
Golden
other-
Apple.
You could
Yeah.
go
There
to
you
the,
go.
Oh,
Right.
snap.
No,
you could
no,
go to
it's
the
all
other
good.
joint.
It's all good. Listen.
No, I love those cats. They're all good. Yeah, no.
Meltdown's a spot, but
I
hey,
lo-
all boats rise. Everyone should buy a comic book.
Yeah.
It's true. No, for real. I like it's down the street from me, and I don't skip over it.
Yeah, well,
I'm
on
going
your way
around.
here, hopefully.
You know this is my spot. You know this is my spot, Adam.
No, it's all good. It's all good. No, listen. The one thing about the comic book world is, we need everybody. You know,
really do.
Yeah,
because
that's
you
true.
want people buying print. You want people. I mean,
You want people in the damn store,
Well,
dude.
it's
Honestly,
the culture
what
of the
fuck?
store. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Jim, you have been a friend of Meltdown forever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how did that even come about?
I mean, I was visiting LA before I moved here because my boy Scott Morse lived here, and he took me to Meltdown, like you were talking about when it was across
When
the
it's
street.
across the street, yeah,
And I met-
next to Coaching Horses.
I met Gaston probably like 15 years ago, and then when I moved in the neighborhood, I mean, Meltdown was one of the first spots that were like, you guys can do art shows here. You can do, before they knocked out the walls in the back and had the Nerdist and all that. It was just like a hallway, man.
Yeah.
And we would get like a keg of beer and have someone DJ and just get like Buck Wild back there.
They're the chillest dudes,
But
honestly.
yeah, and I mean the fact that it's in walking distance of me, and as a kid in St. Louis, growing up with just like one or two comic shops in the entire city, to have a store that you can literally walk to,
Yeah.
and do events and stuff like that was always a big deal,
That's dope.
And and the other store, Golden Apple, I actually did my first signing in store ever there with Kevin when the Clerks book came out. So
When it was up on Melrose,
at their OG
near
location,
Fairfax High School. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When Bill Leibowitz was still alive and still running
yes.
it.
And they had the porno section.
Yes. And that was amazing to me too, because I had seen that store on like Entertainment Tonight and on TV. And
My
stuff like
homeboys
that.
used to steal comics from there when they were teenagers.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like it'd probably be an easy place to steal.
Oh, it
from.
was super easy to steal comics from.
Not here at Meltdown, man. They got
No, not
mad
at
security.
Meltdown, my dude. Don't even try it.
There's cameras.
Yeah. Nah, but that's cool. So you've
Do
been.
people even steal shit anymore? I don't think they do.
Oh, I would never risk stealing anything.
I would never.
I just
don't
assume
know
that we're
what-
being
I
filmed
don't even know what
everywhere
you're
we
talking
go.
about. Yeah.
At all times.
Like Big Brother is watching.
People still do.
well, no, at this point in time, like if it's something that you love, it's something that you care about. Like,
You better fucking pay for that
pay.
shit, dude.
If
Honestly,
you're
my
gonna
man.
steal
If you
shit,
if you
steal
want to
shit
see the next
digitally. Yeah.
if you want to see the next issue of that shit come out,
Yeah.
fucking pay for it.
Right.
Like honestly, like it won't even come out if you don't pay for it.
No.
Right.
Like it really just fucking won't.
Won't.
Like like we're not. We're not Marvel. We're not all these other things. We're like independent comic book and animation or whatever makers and art makers and stuff. And it's like if you're not supporting the independent artists who make that stuff, they're going down.
Yeah.
And you're losing that thing which you like. And then back in the day, like in the
Don't be a
80s.
punk.
Don't be a fucking punk, dude. Like back in the day, like when we were actually racking all those things in the 80s and whatnot. I mean, we might have been very young, and we didn't really understand the whole economy of the thing. But my man, if you're older than 12, 13 years old, you better not be stealing that
Yeah.
shit, dude. Honestly, dude. Like, I'll give you a break if you're 10 years old and you're racking some comic books, dude. Like, I'll give you a break. But, like, if you're older than, like, 12, 13 years old, dude, I'm not giving you a fucking break, dude.
speaking of labels, you always publish under 40-ounce comics.
Yeah.
Which was like your brand.
Yeah.
I don't suppose you've ever sampled one of these 40 ounces.
What's up with these 40 ounces you speak about?
That was all we drank because we were poor in
What
college.
what was your favorite 40 ounce, dude? Like, give me your top 5 like 40 ounces. Dude.
We were OE.
Okay, number
Mickey's,
1, Mickey's, Big
Saint-
Mouth, Wide
Saint
Mouth,
Ides,
Saint Ides, the
The
Crooked
Ides.
Letter,
Colt 45.
Colt. Okay,
Who I wound up doing work for.
That's right.
That's what's up. Oh, that's
and
right.
if
Yeah.
and if it got really bad, if times were real desperate, King Cobra.
Oh snap!
Oh.
So
which
you
was,
kept
which was
it.
Budweiser's
But in malt
Malt
liquor,
liquor
you
would-
kept it in the malt liquor arena.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like I had a lot of friends who would drink
40 and Miller.
Miller
Yeah.
40 ounces and quarts, and Budweiser 40 ounces and quarts. You know what I'm saying? But we used to have this one in New York City called Country Club, and it
Oh,
was
I've never even heard of that.
99 cents. And it was a 40 ounce for 99 cents, and that shit would get you fucked up.
Yeah.
And let me ask you a
Did
question.
you ever go? Did
What do you
ever
know
go
about
Crazy
Horse, my man? That's what I'm
Horse?
talking about, my dude. Like, tell
was
me
so
about
hard
Crazy
to
Horse.
find.
Like, it was like eating sugar, drinking sugar.
That's trouble.
Yeah.
Tell me about.
You
did
were-
you,
you
did
lose your
you-
mind.
Did
But
you
it
fuck with
tasted
Crazy
so
Horse?
Yeah,
Good.
but not we saw so many people just lose their shit on
Crazy
that.
Horse was the fucking.
That
Ew,
like I said,
dude.
even like King Cobra, we were like, shit, dude, this is
We're
getting
in
Crazy
really
Horse
bad.
took you there.
Yeah.
It took you all the way there. It held your hand and it brought you there, dude.
It's almost like the Steel Reserve now, right?
Steel Reserve, the heavy. What is that called? The heavyweight. What is it? It's like
That's
you
It
can
ain't
imagine
Crazy
like
Horse.
the alcohol
If they
sinking to the
brought
bottom.
Crazy Horse back tomorrow,
I would go cop a
Yes,
40, dude,
yes,
and you and
yes.
me, we would chill. We would chill
Why
on a
not?
stoop.
Why
I was
not?
a stoop dweller, dude. I'm from New York
Right.
City, dude. I was chilled on mad stoops when I was a kid, and we started with the OE, and Mickey's was like a latecomer to the game.
Yeah,
but
Mickey's
we
was
were
late.
very much a OE, St. Ides, Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
Type of community.
Yeah.
And when Country Club came out, and Country Club
Country
Club like undercut all these cats, dude. And we were
99
like,
cents?
99 cents?
Yeah.
Sign me up. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go. you
It's
know?
like the most inappropriate name for
It's-
a malt liquor. It's like
and it had that image, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
It was a
this is the
lie.
high class
It
shit.
was
This
a
is
lie.
it's the Caddyshack of fucking 40
Right.
40
like,
ounces,
here,
you know what I'm
take
saying?
my liver, drown it in a vat of acid, and give it back to me.
That was the 96th
For
Street.
99
That was the
cents.
96th Street joint, dude.
Yeah.
Like the Amsterdam and 96th Street joint.
There it is.
So,
there it is. Yeah.
we-
That's the block.
when I got to do some art for Colt 45 in like 07 and 08, some ad campaign stuff for them, and they sent me free samples of Colt 45.
Oh my God.
And I hadn't drank malt liquor since college, and me and my friend were
I really don't fuck with
cracked
that shit.
open a couple cold cans of it one night, and I was like, this shit is intense, dude. This is like an angrier, more aggressive drunk. This is like
They used to write rap songs about it.
This
They used
shit's
to,
crazy.
right?
yeah. The cool thing though is while
Thanks, Colt 45.
yeah, but the cool thing with that was when I was working with them, they sponsored all of our art shows for like
Yeah.
that year. So
and they sponsor Billy D.
yeah,
I mean, they can't be that.
what more do you want?
Yeah, they can't be that bad.
So we got free
Yo,
Colt
if
45
Lando
sent
Calrissian is fucking
sent to
drinking
any
that shit.
parties we were doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Colt 45 truck would just show up.
Nice.
That
And a bunch
is
of
awesome.
30-year-olds would be like, I guess we're drinking this.
We're
tonight."
drinking.
You still got.
What year
Polo.
was that? What year were you?
07 and 08.
Okay.
And
And
it was
you did limited edition like cans, right?
Yeah.
That's dope.
it was cool, man.
Do you have
It was
them
fun.
still?
Yeah.
Of course.
Do you
Yeah.
keep? Do you keep all your art?
Yeah, I mean, I have like an archive of, I keep like 2 or 3 copies of each book I do, and I have an archive of my art. A lot of my old art and all my old comics are in my parents' basement in St. Louis, and they just keep it safe for me because I don't have room out
Right.
here. But I have most of the stuff. Yeah, I've done.
Is there something that you are just that you love that you did? That I mean, above all else.
It's all kind of even playing ground for me. I mean,
That's good.
I'm always like critical of things once they're 2 or 3 years old, where I'm like, I'm always trying. It sounds so cliche, but I'm always trying to like look forward and do my best stuff ahead of me. And so there's milestone things like the Clerks thing. Obviously, is like a thing that I look fondly on. And
Let's talk about Ask for Janice.
You know, Ask for Janice is a thing good segue, man.
Yeah.
That I look fondly on.
Yeah,
what-
I wanna know
We gotta
more.
talk about Ask
Tell
for
me-
Janice.
tell me about it.
That Beastie Boys, Paul's Boutique
Yes.
jump off.
Oh, is
I
it
mean,
this what you were talking about before?
Yeah.
Before
Bring
we
it
got
on, bring it
Oh,
on.
go for
Let's
that.
go.
Go for that.
Paul's Boutique by the Beastie Boys is my personal favorite record.
It's
So
a
that-
seminal hip hop record which cannot be denied
Hold on,
in
hold on.
any way, shape, or form.
All right, that may be true. So is that your number one hip hop album of all
Yeah.
time?
Not maybe.
yeah.
No, hold on. Listen, there may be some that don't agree.
It is true.
Okay. But I'm asking Jim, Food won if that's your number one hip hop
Yeah.
album.
Oh,
That's my joint.
Okay.
That's-
Okay.
So
fair
top
enough.
5, that's your number one.
Yeah.
All right, go for it.
Yeah.
Go.
So me and my friends were all just so fascinated with this record, and those little 33 and a third books.
Oh yeah.
This dude named Dan Leroy wrote one about Paul's Boutique, and I thought it was so fascinating. I decided to adapt it and do a mini comic visual version of it. Amazing. And I hit him up online and asked him if that was okay, and he hit me back and said sure. I put the book out in I think like 06 as a mini comic, and it eventually sold out, and I re-released it with a new cover in 2012. And the craziest thing is this guy who works with Questlove in New York got a hold of it, and Questlove and his name's Henry, they wound up using it in their music appreciation class that they do at NYU. So something I did when I was like high in my studio, I ended up in the NYU curriculum. And the craziest shit, one of the things I definitely regret is each day of the class they would concentrate on a different record. The day they did the Paul's Boutique record and each student had a copy of my book, Mike D and Ad Rock showed up for the class.
Where the hell were you?
MCA had already passed away. Rest in peace. I was traveling, but it was like a couple days before they did the class, and Henry was like, "Oh shit! By the way, like, do you want to fly out to New York and do the class?" And they weren't gonna. NYU wasn't gonna.
Yeah, they weren't gonna pay
my
you,
bill
but
to
I
do
mean,
it.
at the same
But I was
time-
like, I'm already traveling. If you would have given me notice, and then the topper was like Mike and Adam were there. So
That's on some
wait,
hip-hop
so
shit, right?
No doubt, yo. So wait, hold on. So you did the book in 2006.
yes, and then I re-released it in 2012 with a new cover, and the re-release wound up getting more attention. I didn't understand at that time that the basis, the foundation of hip hop, and what made it so great was that it was sampling from all these incredible funk records.
Yes.
And so Check Your Head came out in like 91, 92.
Yes,
We were in
92,
high
yeah.
school. We're a little older, a little wiser. The other key thing, we had begun smoking weed. Open the third eye a little bit.
Yes.
And we're like, Beastie Boys are back. They're playing their
They're
instruments.
playing
This
their
is
own
dope.
instruments. Mario
So
Caldato.
then, so
Silver
then
Lake.
we revisited Paul's Boutique, and it was like I heard it, and a light went off in my head, and I was like, "This is fucking genius."
The Dust Brothers.
Where I did not understand this like 3 years
couple
earlier.
years ago, yeah.
But and then when in '93 I went to art school, met all these DJs, and I met all these hardcore record collector nerds that were like, "Oh, dude, you like Paul's Boutique? Here's the record. Here's some of the shit they sample from. Here's the original tracks." And understanding in a full circle way, like how the Beastie Boys and the Dust Brothers and Matt Dyke made that record, super high, like cutting samples together by
Seriously,
hand.
so
like,
sick.
It's a work of art.
They really closed the door on sampling in a lot of
They
ways
did.
because they used so many samples that the record companies couldn't keep up with them and the licensing agents couldn't keep up with them.
You're right.
And it was one of those last records
Yep.
of the early hip hop era that was able to sample what they wanted.
Exactly.
And it was so many samples for every single song on that record that if you listen to it now and then listen to something that was made like a couple months later,
Right.
it's night and day.
You're right, and I talk about that in the book that album really did put the nail in the coffin of sampling
It did.
because and the Beastie Boys did that on purpose because they were like, let's just make this the ultimate sampling record of all time. People won't be able to top it. And
Make
we'll
it happen.
just play dumb when people ask us how many samples. They're like, we don't even know. There's like 500 or I don't know.
And they used like a measure here and a measure there, and there was already probably the lawsuit going between the Turtles and Bismarcky,
Right.
And they were just like, let's get this under the wire, let's make this happen, and these other cats are doing it's spring again and like whatever it is where they're sampling the full. For the whatever it is that makes up that sample,
Yeah.
and just for one song, but they're using like 5 or 6 of those just for a single track.
So to
you know?
reset it for the people listening, this is a visual companion to Paul's Boutique.
Yes. called Ask for Janice.
Where do we find this joint right
People
now,
can
dude?
score this.
You're
I
like,
still have it in print on my website,
Nice.
jimmahfood.com. It's
Nice.
32 pages, and I break it down as a comic book story about how the guys came to LA and made the record. And then the book ends with each song gets its own page, and I break down like all the samples used for that song. And I did a bunch of internet research, but Dan Leroy's 33 1/3 book he did about Paul's Boutique was basically my main guide and inspiration, and I credit him in my book.
Right.
And
So
got his
you
blessing.
just did it. You just did it. Didn't
Yeah,
ask
but-
permission. You just on some hip hop shit. You were just like, I'm just gonna do.
No, I
this.
did ask his permission.
Okay, got
I
it.
found him online and said,
Yeah.
"Can I basically do a visual comic book adaptation of your?"
That is on
book.
some hip hop
Nice.
shit.
And he was like,
It
"That
is
sounds
totally,
awesome."
B.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I sampled
Yeah.
his book
There
basically.
it is.
There it is,
Nice.
cat.
And that brings
Wait,
us.
so
hold on, because we
No,
gotta
lay
get
it
there.
down.
We gotta
Lay it
get
down,
there.
B. Lay
We
it
gotta
down.
get there. Because I see a moment right here that really connected with people, and it's still resonating with people. It's re-released in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the curriculum in Questlove's course. But there was another collaboration
With the
that you
Felts, huh?
did exactly. And
What?
There's
What?
a
we're
certain
walking on
LA
the same
artist.
path, my dude.
There's a certain LA artist,
The M
Murs.
to the
Murs,
U to the
yes.
R to the
who,
S.
who you have a long-standing collaboration with.
Yeah.
So bring us there.
Walking the same path.
He, I met him at that Bomb Shelter DJs night I was telling you guys about in Arizona. He was
yeah.
living in Tucson at the time.
Oh, really?
Even though he was a LA cat.
He was a mid-city dude.
And exactly, and he had an album out at the time called Merce Rules the World, and there's a track on that record that someone played for me before I met Merce where he name drops Girl Scouts.
Hello.
He talks about going to the Golden Apple, Alan hooks me with the deal, I read Girl Scouts, Trans Metro, and Invisibles.
Hell yeah.
And I was just
that's
like,
dope.
I was like, who, what? This guy name dropped Girl
A
Scouts?
rapper,
And
no
then
less?
I felt like pimp
cool.
shit. And
Yeah.
then
You was a
that's pretty
superstar.
and then I
That's
met
a cool
him,
moment.
and you know, it was like one of those fellow nerd hip hop geek guys that we just hit it off, and then I wound up doing some artwork for one of his albums, and then some stuff for Rhyme Sayers, and then him and Slug were doing. Atmosphere came to Arizona the week before I was moving to LA, and I did live art at their show, and Merce was performing with them. And Merce did this amazing tribute send-off to me on stage in front of my like entire
Whoa.
family and
So
friends in
Oh, wow.
Arizona.
So it's pre-LA.
Where he was
Okay.
like, this dude was part of Arizona for the last 6 years. He's moving to LA. And I was like, holy shit. And Merce is just a great guy. But it was also at, like 2002 when Atmosphere was at like its peak.
Right.
Like Slug would take the stage and women were like taking their shirts off
That's
and
what I was gonna
screaming.
say.
Word, yo.
I got
It
you
was-
some play.
It was
No, it was
unbelievable,
on
dude.
fire. When
It
I
was-
saw them at the El Rey, dude, these dudes freestyled in a way that sounded written with Z-Trip. Probably
Yeah.
the same night that you were painting. And it was so sick that it sounded so written and so amazing.
Yeah.
They stopped and they were like, we just made that up.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh, snap. Like, that's how real their connection was. And that's how real their connection was, not only with them, each other, but Z-Trip and you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, all those things were happening on stage at the same time. Shit was electric.
Yeah, those guys are great, and so they were doing the Felt 2 record, which was a tribute to Lisa Bonet, and they had me do basically a comic book visual, accompaniment to that record, where I kind of like broke down each song into a comic book form,
Yeah.
comic books,
That was dope.
strip. The crazy thing
I
is,
bought that, and I could not follow, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things, like, you ever enjoy something, but you do not understand it.
Yeah.
That's where I was at
It's
with
weird
that book.
because I think the problem with that project was the record and the comic book were not packaged together.
Right.
Okay.
So they sent me the record and said, listen to the songs and do your comics about these songs. And that's
Right.
what I did. Merce and Slug didn't art direct me or edit me at all.
Right.
They just, I met Slug after he did a show here in LA at Swingers Diner, and he rolled up and I basically had all the original art and just showed it to him. And he just sat there smoking cigarettes, reading all of it, and was like, it's cool. Let's
Dope.
publish it.
Yeah.
But I was
Nice.
like, I don't know if your fans are gonna like this or if people are gonna understand what this is, but here it is. But just to work with those dudes, it's like just fun stuff, good stuff.
Absolutely. And it was one of those things. It was the quality of the printing was like really high. Like the presentation of the book was like spoke for itself.
It was good.
She was on point.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
There it is. So, does Felt go on, or I mean, like, where does that collaboration? I mean, is there room?
I was part of just the Felt 2 project, and then they did Rhymesters did did T-shirts of the cover of the comic book I did, and I have been friends with those guys since, But I think Felt 3. I'm not sure which one that was, but I mean, they have their own thing that went on after that, But I still see Merce, on a regular basis, generally in line at comic book conventions. Like we'll just run into each other and catch up.
Because he's there, like trying to cop.
He's there as a fan,
right?
Which I like. He's still part of the culture and. I mean,
we definitely got to have Merce on.
He has children now, and I even see him like going like Star Wars toy shopping with his kids and stuff. So I'm like, he's raising his kids to be fellow hip hop nerd, kids. Which
As
is cool.
he should.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So you've been talking also, Jim, about a lot of underground hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
I love and do my own underground hip hop, playlists. I mean, I'm on Spotify. I do underground, what I consider to be underground.
Sure.
What you use that term? What do you mean by that? What is that to you?
I mean, in art school in the '90s, when stuff like Dr. Octagon dropped, and it wasn't at the time. It was all about G-Funk and Dre, which is
I was
great.
like so far out of college.
That record, everyone was just like, this is our secret thing. Like, this is brilliant. Nobody knows about this. The turntablism movement, when Qbert and them were putting out releases, and then stuff that was like the Shapeshifters.
Yeah, CBS crew in the house.
The Living
my
Legends
dude.
crew out here.
Hell
putting
yeah,
out records.
Exit Stereo, Circus,
Anacon.
A1.
So
all that kind of like, it was basically the self-published version of indie comics was what that rap music
was. Were you
was.
underground East Coast or West Coast, or did you care? Were you
Sounds
looking
like
for
West
whatever?
Coast to me, honestly.
Probably more West Coast, but I liked anything.
It sounds very
But
West
then
Coast.
when like LP
Adam's trying
and
to
Company
check your
Flow,
credentials here. He's like,
My man, no, but knowing about
wanna
both
know.
and having like homeboys in the Shapeshifters and shit like that. If you're mentioning the Shapeshifters, dude, like you're a West Coast cat. Like honestly.
yeah. But also, like when when Company Flow and all that first came around.
But Raucous Records and those cats, like to me, I mean, I'm not gonna give them underground cred.
Right.
Well,
Like,
are you
like
kidding?
no,
Backpack.
I'm not kidding.
That's
no,
the
for
difference
real.
between Backpack maybe and underground.
No,
if
but
you
for
really
real,
wanna start
because
splitting hairs.
like our mutual friend, who went to college with Jared and Brian, who started Raucous Records, and those cats, like it wasn't necessarily underground. I think that there was a lot of loot behind those cats, like
Yeah, but they were putting out stuff.
But it's Backpack.
that-
Yeah.
Backpack is different though, because
Backpack.
Black Moon was Backpack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and really Backpack rap meant that you had the fucking toast in your fucking backpack, and it was not about like I have my algebra book in my backpack. It was like I'm wearing a backpack because I have a 45 in that shit.
Or deuce. Let's.
no, for real. Or a deuce, or whatever you're saying.
If you were
The
sporting
ni-
a backpack, you might have the deuce.
You might have the
with
deuce.
45 was.
But I'm saying though,
backpack
backpack rap to me is I have a gun, and it's not backpack rap means like I have a math book. You know what I mean? Or I'm a cerebral, like educated cat who's on some like space shit. I'm not a
scientifical madness.
No, for real. Like that's all I'm saying. Like they had the street campaigns. They had the
started-
multi-thous. They had the fucking the sticker campaigns and the poster campaigns and all that other shit that came that was
It was just
exceeding.
organized.
It was mad organized and it was exceeding. It
Would
was
you say
exceeding the Profile
organized
records.
confusion?
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
Organized Confusion. What were they on? They were like on Profile or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like I
yeah.
can't say off the top of my head, but at the same time,
Right,
it was
but
not underground.
Not
But
underground, but backpack.
But somebody
yeah.
like Shapeshifters and somebody like people who were kind of like self-publishing their own shit.
So
That's
Project
mad.
Bloat is underground.
Project Blow was mad underground, but Freestyle Fellowship was not. You know what I mean?
God.
And no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
what
If
you
you
call
think
a
about it,
hip-hop snob.
if you think about it, like
What
at
about
the-
Invisible Scratch Pickles?
Invisible Strat? Yeah, no, that was underground because those dudes were doing their own damn thing.
That's the other thing that our guest, had to say that I think is interesting is you were not just interested in, something with a beat and a rhyme, but also something like
Culture.
deconstructed the form,
Right.
Like those dudes, Q-Bird and
Right.
Scratch Pickles. and
Well,
that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
and like, dude, seeing Z Trip and them DJ once a week, just right in front of me, like turning around while I'm painting and being like, "What is happening right now?" Like
Z-Trip
that's
killed.
that's I mean that's art. It was
Yeah.
really crazy.
So-
And
There was nothing like that, dude. Like honestly,
Yeah.
like I had seen a lot of things leading up to that,
Right.
and then once I saw Z Trip, I was like, "There's nothing like this
Yeah.
right
Alright.
now."
All right. Well, listen. I want Food's top 5 underground.
Let's hear that shit right now.
not even underground.
No,
you don't have
no,
to. You don't have to
wait.
limit it.
I-
Don't make them limit
Come
it.
on, I want
No,
underground
you know what?
first,
I want to
and
hear.
then-
I want to hear it all. I want to hear. I want to hear.
I want
on
everything.
some hip hop shit.
Yeah, I want to
this
hear a
is
mainstream.
not-
I want to hear a mainstream. I want to hear underground, and I want to hear like an in between
This is-
ground.
this is-
like,
this is what
like,
I'm gonna
let me get
say.
15 from this.
This is what I'm saying. This
He
is
know-
not.
he
This
knows
is not
enough.
homework. This is not homework.
Brando Calrissian, he knows enough about this shit that he could give us 15.
Alright.
You know what I'm saying? Like he could give us his
All right,
5
give
mainstream,
us what you wanna
his
give
5
us.
underground, his 5 midground.
can I
wanna know.
just say the categories.
Yeah.
Lay it
It's a
down,
little-
dude.
Yeah, it ain't homework.
Let
I'll
us
just, I'll
know.
say 5 are
Let it
just
be
in
broke.
general.
5
in
what?
general
5 what?
are we talking hip hop records?
Hip hop, no, it's
whatever
all
you want. whatever
Surprise
you
top
want.
5.
I'll say hip hop records.
Okay.
There you go.
Number 1,
Records,
Paul's
okay.
Boutique
Okay, there it is.
by the Beastie Boys.
Hell
Number
yeah.
one.
Number
B-Boy
2,
Bouillabaisse.
The Unseen by Quasimodo.
Quasimodo is
Mad Lib.
all up there. Hell yeah.
Unbelievable.
I've listened
It's
to that
a
record
sick record.
10,000 times.
I'm labeled as a bad character.
3, Dr. Octagon.
Oh, Blue Flowers.
That's
fucking.
another. Just,
You're wanted in the operating room.
And you have a hype
You know what I'm saying, dude, though. Like, that shit is fucking for real.
Jim,
Yeah.
you got your hype man.
I love.
That's 3.
I say things and then you just.
I'm on it. No, I'm on it.
4, Public Enemy Takes a Nation to Millions.
Oh, yeah.
Which is still-
Seriously, that as much as I am a huge
can't front, bring the
BDP
noise.
KRS-One fan, I do believe that It Takes a Nation to Million Hold Us Back, probably the #1 hip hop record of all time,
Bring that beat back.
and the #1 hip hop song of all time. Not necessarily on that album, but is "Fight the Power."
Yeah.
Bring that beat
It's
back.
interesting, man, because I just had a couple days last week where I listened to all of BDP stuff in one day and then all of Public Enemies, and
Public
both of them
Enemy
are,
1.
Both of them are so good.
Public
still.
Enemy 1,
Public
dude.
Enemy though, It Takes a Nation of Millions, Apocalypse 91, and Fear of Black Planet. I've been listening to a lot of punk rock and 70s stuff lately, Stooges and stuff, and it's like those 3 rap records to me are punk rock.
Oh, yeah,
Yo,
right.
Bum
It's
Rush
so
Show.
crazy, man. Like the samples and the sounds and the sirens and the shit that the
It's a
Bomb
Paul's.
Squad,
It's a Paul's Boutique before Paul's Boutique.
Yeah, it was like the shit the Bomb Squad was doing, and just Chuck D's voice. It's like it's crazy
How
shit.
sick? How sick is his fucking voice?
It's crazy
How
shit.
dope is his fucking hype man? And how sick is the Bomb Squad?
You're the flavor of tonight.
Flavor Flav. You know
right,
how it
it's-
go.
So,
All
It Takes a Nation,
Oh.
4.
That's 4.
You got
and
5?
then-
4. That's 4.
5. I'm almost tempted to say Sex and Violence by Boogie Down Productions. 'cause
There
that's
it
like
is.
my favorite shit.
Do you
too.
know that I just bought it
He was
last
on this
night?
last week.
Oh,
or
really?
A couple
No,
weeks ago.
I went to Amoeba last night. I took my niece record shopping because I bought her a record player. She
With the
bought
Robert Williams cover.
Yes.
exactly, and they now have it in two
Oh, really?
vinyls. Yeah, so you got A, B, C, and D. Because the last one I had was just two-sided, one record.
Oh, okay.
And so now it's
Dude,
got,
that record is ridiculous.
I love that you love that. What is
he
your
was-
jam on that one?
Shit.
Poisonous products, build and destroy.
I have to
When-
visualize
when he goes
the-
against X-Clan on that. 'Cause-
Yes, they had the beef.
Yeah, and then the
What's
original
what's the
Way.
track? What's the track
Freddie
with
Fox?
Freddie Fox? I was just gonna say
Well,
Bumpy Knuckles.
he did Original Way, and then he did shit, I forgot that next one. But he did Drug Dealer on that.
That one,
Black
yeah,
Drug
yeah.
Dealer. You got
And
to
the track
rise
where
up.
he's like, "Yo, Chris, just interview yourself."
Question
He's like,
and
interview
answers.
myself, and it's like him literally interviewing himself as
Yeah.
this song.
Yes.
It's fucking brilliant.
I
It's
love that
crazy.
you love that, man.
It's crazy.
'Cause
that that's a hidden gem. You know,
It
that
is.
one is
It's
a
a fucking hidden
and then,
gem, my
and
dude.
then, and I will have to say, you mentioned Robert Williams as the artist on the cover.
yeah.
Yes, I did.
I do, and I'm not sure. But at that point, because that album came out in '92,
Okay,
right?
91, 92.
Because 90 was edutainment, 91 was live hardcore,
Yeah.
and then 92 was sex and violence. I don't think at that point any rapper or MC had put out an album without themselves on the cover.
That's a good point. That's an interesting point.
You know? I mean, I think every album. Think about that.
I am thinking
this
about
this
that.
this doesn't count because it didn't come out at that time. But KMD, Black Bastards. Remember the album cover
yeah.
got banned?
Yes.
because it was
We were
Doom's
talking about that
drawing of-
not too long ago.
With James Furtado.
And how
the-
that whole record didn't even get released though at the
Right.
same time. Like, and we are talking about records that got released in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
No,
I
but
was
that's good.
telling these
Yeah.
fools that like I came here to LA and I bought that shit on cassette tape from the dudes at Fat Beats because it had never been released.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
When did you buy it? What year?
I bought it in '96.
Okay. But it was originally supposed
It was
to come
supposed
out
to come
in
in
like
94.
Okay.
So are you into? I assume I'm just asking. What are you into now? What hip hop are you listening to?
Oh, I mean, the obvious stuff like Run the Jewels, I think is
Mm-hmm.
brilliant. Kendrick, I think is brilliant. I love Danny Brown.
Killer Mike.
Really?
I mean,
Danny Brown be taking pills, cat.
his last record, but I
Yeah.
think the Hybrid and Triple X I think are brilliant records.
Has anyone here heard of Fel
Triple X is dope.
Sweetenberg?
Fel Sweetenberg?
Fel Sweetenberg.
My man, I have not heard. Of
I am
that
telling
person.
you, listen to Fel Sweetenberg.
I will look.
this is
I
a-
will look
a
them
thing?
up.
It's
You're not-
fucking
You're not playing me, right?
No, I am telling
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Write it down, Brando.
I don't even know how
He
to spell that
literally-
shit.
Fel, F-E-L, Sweetenberg.
Brando, you getting that shit?
It was.
I don't know how I became the secretary of
I
this
swear.
podcast.
You're the one who has a pencil.
I swear, I thought it was the corniest name. This dude, oh my!
Who's
Yo, no.
putting that out? Like, what?
I don't even know. I
It's
got
the internet is putting.
I
that
heard it
shit
on
out.
Spot.
Yeah.
No, he's on Spotify. He's
Yes,
got albums.
like
I
I
bought
said,
the albums. No,
the
I bought the
internet.
albums from undergroundhiphop.com. I
You
bought
bought
the
it.
vinyl. I buy the. This is a guy that I went out and after I heard him, I had to support him. He is that good. He's got like 3 albums out.
That's a good sign.
Unbelievable.
There it is.
I'm gonna play it for you guys after.
I'm not fronting.
I also like I'm a huge Stones Throw fan, so like most of the stuff they put out.
You see
I'll
the documentary?
buy.
Lay it
Yeah.
down. Lay it down.
Yeah,
Stuff.
What's your favorite though?
dude, Madlib is my guy.
Madlib,
Anything he
okay.
does, I think him and Jay Dilla are the 2 best producers.
Yeah.
you know,
All right.
ever.
So,
Okay.
Pretty much.
not to cut it
I
off,
can't front.
but
Sure.
what do you got coming up? Food.
What's new, cat?
The new stuff. I mean, everything I've been working on just came out. Miami Vice remix, the trade paperback of that is coming in the next couple months. Howard the Human is still sort of on shelves. Girl Scouts mini comic at jimmahfood.com. And then my next major thing is I'm doing a new Girl Scouts full color comic book series for Image Comics that will be dropping sometime next year.
Dope.
So
Holler.
people can stay up to date with me on just the site and basically my Instagram, which
What's
is
your
just
Instagram?
at JimMahfood.
We're on that
It
shit.
is.
That's my main.
What
thing.
else? What other social media joints do you rock? Do you rock Twitter? Do you do Facebook? Do
All
you
of
any
it.
that shit?
All of it. And
Is
it's
it all? Is it all just Jim Mahfood?
Yes. Just my
so
name.
At Jim Mahfood on
Exactly,
Facebook, at Jim Mahfood on Twitter,
Exactly.
at Jim Mahfood on Pinterest.
Exactly. Not on Pinterest. I'm just gonna keep saying exactly to whatever
Yes,
you say.
no, let's go. Let's go.
Tumblr.
Let's do it. At Jim Mahfood on Tumblr.
And is there anything else?
on Tinder.
And at Jim Mahfood on Tinder.
Anything else? What?
And I would say, people, if you can, please check out the Girl Scouts live action pilot at YouTube. Look up Mike Diva or Girl Scouts and
That's
share
DIVA.
it. DIVA. Share it, like it. Try to leave a positive comment. Don't be a dick.
GRRL.
It is amazing how
2 R's.
when people leave fucked up comments and just you're like,
Yeah, how do you
really?
feel about that
I
shit?
know.
Like, what the hell?
What are you? Why
It's
are
funny,
you such
man,
an
'cause
asshole?
when the Girl Scouts pilot went up, like the first couple of days, I was reading all the comments, and then I eventually just
Don't
had
read
to,
the
I had to
comments,
just
dude.
not
Yeah.
read it anymore. Because I was
Don't
like,
read the
it's
comments.
like these kids are fucking stupid, man.
No.
Who are these
My
people?
man, no, we worked on this shit
Flame
for a long
wars.
time, and then we had these people coming on there, and they're like, "This is like selling out, blah blah blah," and we're like, "You know what, man? You don't really know. You have no idea what's going on. So you know what? At the same time, it's nice that maybe you left a comment.
Right.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I had to walk away.
Yeah,
yeah.
Don't read that shit, dude. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with you or what you're doing.
On the flip side, like, say something insightful. You know, if you really want to dig, there's a lot of work behind.
Don't be
Girl
don't be an
Scouts.
asshole.
So
yeah.
there's a lot that you have to say. You could offer something.
Yeah.
For real. Like, if you wanna do your homework, if you call yourself a nerd, like, get in them books.
Don't
Right.
be a hater.
Jim Mahfood got books.
Yeah. Get into it.
Books,
Alright.
prints, merch, gear.
Go buy all
Boom.
that shit and study it before you have something to say.
On that note, thank you, Jim.
Educate
Thanks for having me,
yourself.
you guys.
Yes.
Jim, we hope to have you back.
I'll be back.
All right.
All right.
Cool.
I'll be back next week.
There it is.
We're in the neighborhood, dude. We're in the
We
neighborhood.
might
You
have
just-
to do a.
you
we
just
might have
roll
to do
on
a
through.
a food and MERS
I would love to do that.
version.
You just
Yeah.
roll on through, man. We're in the neighborhood.
For
There
sure.
it is.
All right.
All right.
On some hip hop shit.
Keep it funky.
Yeah.
This episode of On Some Hip Hop Shit was produced by Brandon Schultz and Adam Silverstein, engineered by Mason Booker, and recorded at the Meltcast Podcast Studios, Hollywood, California.
They got street legends.
Our theme was produced by King Smo of the Animal Crackers, and a special thanks to Francisco, Gaston, Mark, and Mike Davis. Artwork by Self Uno. Tweet to us at our brand new handle at On Some Hip Hop Shit, and that is what's up.